very similar. This is, it was at Split Coast Stampers in their tutorials that they don't use a cutter to make their files, so I thought I would just try my hand at making my Christmas cards this year from this style of a card. It has a wow factor because it pops up, and so this is the front of the card, and this is the inside of the card, and it has some cut across here and a cut across here, and then a number of folds. And then I just decorated it how I wanted to decorate it. So I thought I'd show you as much of the design process as you can stand. And so this is what my file ended up looking like with the suggested lines for cutting. And so, and these are some of the pieces that I put together to make the design. So I'm going to just start with a blank page here, and this is an A2 size card, which I will start with just a square from Basic Shapes, so I'll double click that, and I'll go to green screen right now so we can see what I'm doing as I build this card. I'm going to make it 8.5 inches wide and 5.5 inches tall, and press enter. Only I forgot, just like Brian forgot, we toggle this to keep proportions, so the green allows us to make it exactly how we want it. 8.5 and the height 5.5. I also like to put this on at 0 and 0 for the X and Y so that I can get some very precise locations for my score lines. And the first lines that I want to draw are the center score lines. So to do that, I'm going to click on this figure 8 in the upper left corner to open my node editing toolbar, and I need to click on this bigger green plus icon at the lower right corner so that I can add the score line to a different layer than the actual card. And I like to use the Bezier draw, and I'm going to put some snapping on for right now just 1 inch so that the drawing will be straight, because I don't draw very straight. And maybe I'll do it every ½ inch since this is a 5.5 inch thing. I'm going to left click at the top of one of these lines and just right click at the bottom, and I have a good line there, and you notice over on the right that it went on to its own layer. I'm going to change the solid line under line style, clicking the color icon, changing line style, and move it over, spacing a little bit, and click OK. So now I have a dash line for a score line. Now I'm going to click on the top arrow again and select the score line, hold the shift down, and click on the rectangle. So I've both selected, and I'm going to type S to stack them exactly in the middle. Now that I have them both selected, I'll put them back on the 0 and 0 for X and Y and enter, so that they're perfectly in the corner and I can see the grid markings, the one inch marks and all. Now what I need to do is draw solid lines. Now I can go back to the original layer and draw my solid lines. I'll hide the score lines for now, that one score line. What I want to do is take a line from 1 inch from each side and 1 inch from each outer edge. So I'm going to left click here and then I'm going to right click here. So I have an inch here and an inch here, and this line's an inch away from the top. And I'm going to do the same thing down here. I'm going to left click and then right click so that I have an inch down here and an inch on each end. And my power is flickering, so if you lose me, you get the idea. I'm going to go back to my score layer now. I'm going to hide my, I don't want to hide it actually. I do need to hide it. I don't want to connect these lines, so I'm going to send them to their own layer, and I'm going to hide them. I think I can see them okay. The next thing I need to do is draw some score lines just between those lines. It's a little hard to see them, but I don't want to connect them. I'm going to left click on this, again, Bezier Draw tool. I'm going to make a line, left click here and right click here at the end of my cut lines. So I'm going to do a left click here and right click here. And then an inch away from those lines, I wonder where they went. Oh, they went to the same layer. I'm going to move these to their own layer. So I have these two lines, and I'm going to select that layer. You know which selected because it's the dark gray. And I'm going to draw another line 1 inch in from each of these. So I'm going to left click and right click and left click and right click. Is that what I wanted to do? I just got to look here. Yep. Just got to make sure. Now the other line that I want to draw is at 1/4 of an inch line here. It's 1 inch from the center line out. So I want it to be, if you see where my cursor is, you see this little arrow shows me where the cursor is, and if I get close to that and left click and then right click, then I get a precise line. And what I want to do is do it on the outside, and again you see my arrow lines up there, and I want to do 1 inch on this side. And I don't really have to be precise in placement because I have snapping on, and it'll go to the nearest 1/4 of an inch. So those are all of the score lines. So I'm going to click on the line style there and make sure that all these score lines are dashed. You could keep them solid if you wanted to use an embossing tool or an engraving tool to cut these. And now when I open up the cut lines here, you'll see that the book card is actually finished and it's ready to embellish, which is kind of nice. So then you just need to decide how are you going to decorate this. So before I move on, I always want to save it. I'm going to just save this as a book card. In fact, you could even put it in your basic shapes if it was a style that you like to use often. If I were just doing one of these, it might just be simple to score by hand like they do at Split Coast Stampers, but when I got to do 3 dozen of them for relatives, then it's nice to have them already scored. It's easy to put them together that way. So here you see my card. I've got score line, the cut lines across, and then the score lines in these different places. One thing that we do need on this is a backing, because it's like a pop-up card, so you can see through to the underside. So to make I'm going to use actually this rectangle as the backing, and I'm going to make the inside of the card a little smaller. So to do that, I'm going to click on the shadow layer icon, and I'll make this inside, you have to use a minus to make it smaller, and you can decide if you wanted 1/4 of an inch smaller. You might make it 1.125. That looks about right. And I like to use a mitered edge to keep the corners pointed, but if you wanted them rounded, you could use rounded. And so I'll click on Accept, and now I have the inside card, which I can label inside card, and this is the outside card. These are the score lines, and this center line here can be used for both the inside and the outside card, so I'll send it to its own layer. Let's call that center score. And the other score lines I like to kind of join together, so I'll just click on this layer to select them, I think. I'll click on the picture. It selects just those score lines, and I'm going to join them so they don't get moved around. And I also like to join these lines here. I'll hold the Shift key with the inside card and join those so that those are ready to cut, and I'll click on the trash can to get rid of the empty layers. So now I have a center score line that can go with the inside card and the outside card, and it's ready to make. Now I wanted to make some pieces like I showed you here for the I like the leaves and the vine, and I borrowed from the file that Brian did last week, the nativity scene. I borrowed the baby and the star because I thought that would be nice for Christmas. And then I made my own little lace, snowflakes lace, and I used the Samantha font with some of its ornaments to decorate the text here. And then I thought I'd try my hand at drawing one of these. I just didn't want a simple rectangle mat, and decided, I can try drawing that. So I drew the leaves from a basic shape in Make to Cut. I can show you how I did that, maybe, if you're interested in how I came up with some of this. If I go, I'm going to save this, and now I'll open a new page here. And to do the leaves, I went to Basic Shapes, and I searched for a teardrop, maybe just a tear. Yeah, a tear. Double click it.
Okay, did we lose you? Let me just check your...
Like what size it came in.
There you are.
Did you lose me?
Nope, I hear you now.
I'm here. You can hear me still?
Yep.
Okay. Well, this is, I'm going to use this to make the leaf. It's kind of fat right now for a leaf, so I think I'll make it a little narrower. And the other thing I want to do is move the tip over to make it a little less symmetrical. So I click on the second icon on the node editing toolbar. This is the node tool. I'm just going to click on this endpoint and just drag it over a little. And right now it looks a little ugly, but I can push it out. I can kind of make it do what I want it to do. And you could make a leaf do what you wanted it to do. If I right-click on it, I can convert to line and make it straight, and then I can just kind of curve it a little. Right here, it's got a funny curve, so I'll left-click and right-click and delete a node to make it more smooth, and maybe I'll do that again, delete another node, and just kind of move it out. So I just played with it for a while till I got the shape the way I wanted it. If I wanted to curve down a little bit more, I just move it down, and then I can get a gentle curve. And once I had the leaf the way I wanted it, then I can make it longer, skinnier. Then all I really needed to do was duplicate it a number of times. I needed 7 of these, so to duplicate them, I go to Edit, Duplicate, and I have 7 columns in one, and Apply. So now I have my leaves. I'd kind of like an L-shaped vine, and I'm not very good at drawing, but I just thought I'd have fun trying. So what I did was I'll just use the lines here as a kind of a guide. I'm just going to left click about every inch or so. I should use snapping because I'm not very good at drawing. I wanted it about 2 inches long and maybe 2 inches wide or 2.5 inches wide. Doesn't really matter. Right click at the end. And then kind of shape the lines the way that I'd like my to make it look like a vine. Just grabbing the middle of each section here and moving it a little. And I think this one's a little bit too long. I want to shorten it. Kind of wanted it like an L shape. Doesn't look bad. So after I got one, I hold the Control and Shift and just drag. And then I don't need it real thick, so then I will click on the end here of this and join to the closest node, and it gives me a nice point. And then left click here, or to select, and then right click and join to the closest node. So if the point's a little bit too sharp, I can drag it out to give me a little more definition in my vine. And that looks fine for a vine. Now what I need is to decide what I want to do with my leaves. I think I'll rotate some and I'll flip some. And I think I'm going to need a stem, a leaf, a stem for a leaf. So I could use a rectangle, or I could just do left click, left click, left click, left click, and left click. So I have a little stem. I can duplicate that too. Then I can make as many and make the stems go whichever way I need them to go. This one I'm going to rotate a little and put it at the top. It doesn't really need a stem. And then this one, you can use the rotation tool to move them around to get them close the way you want, and then just adjust them. Then if I want to, I can add a little stem too and rotate it. And what I'm doing is just building this in overlapping pieces right now. And then this one, I think I would like to flip this one. This is the mirror, so that the leaves are pointing up. So I'll put this one down here. Left click here and rotate it a little so it connects the leaf to the vine. Use my arrow keys to get it in position. And this one, I think I'll rotate it a little bit. You can change the shapes of the leaves if you want holly or, you know, a different kind of a leaf. But I like to change the angles a little so they're not all the same. Any questions so far?
There are no questions so far.
You can position the leaves wherever you want for a vine. I could have just gone into the gallery and got a vine, because I think we have leaves and vines in there, but I just thought I'd take a challenge to make my own this time. Having hundreds of thousands of files is nice when you need something in a hurry, but suppose you wanted to sell your file. It would be good to, or your designs or your cards, it would be really good to make your own, or learn to make your own so that you can sell them without copyright infringement. So I just put a leaf on the end, and I'll put one more up here. This one, so once you have everything the way you want it, then you can just select everything and click on Weld. And I have my own leafy vine. Oh, I don't like that one. I forgot to put the stem on it. So what I'm going to do is Control Z, unweld it, and put my little stem on there. And you can select all and weld again. After you save it and close it, you can't undo it. So that's the way I made the stem. And the way that I wanted to kind of make a fancy label, again, I'm not very good with drawing, and I just wanted to do my own. You can go in the gallery probably and find a nice label. But I thought I'd draw my own, and to do that I put some snapping on, maybe at a 1/2 inch, and using the grid lines, I just start with straight lines. So left click and left click, left click, and maybe right click. And I think I'd like to go down a ways. Let's see, left click, and left click. I'm just counting through every 3, left click, and maybe I'll right click there. What I want to do is just draw one corner. Once I get one corner the way I want it to be, then I'll just duplicate it. I think I want it to go about halfway. So I'll left click here and hit delete. Let's bring it down there. Okay, so I like it to be curvy. I'll show you my card again. You see how it's all curvy like that. So to make them curvy, I just pushed them into loops now. I have no snapping. Maybe I need about 1/4 inch snapping to help me keep them smooth. I'm going to just point this node editing tool in the middle. I don't need it to go that far. I got a 1/2 inch. I don't want a 1/2 inch. 1/4 inch should be better. So undo. And we'll try it again. It's trial and error. Just push it up a little, push it up a little, push it up a little. And this one, I think it would be good to double click here to add a node, and I'm going to pull this side in, and I don't want it at 1/4 of an inch, maybe an 1/8. It's not very equal. Double click there to add a node, click and delete. So if I like it, now you can change these however you want. I think it's going to need to be longer, but I'm going to left click this and do a Control, Shift, and drag, and then mirror it, and make sure that they're aligned to the bottom, typing B, and then I'm going to click on this one on the right, and I'm going to hold the Control and move over to the right until the top 2 lines nearly meet, and I'll type in 4 and 3 to get in really close, and just tap that right arrow key until they're just about matching, and left click and join the nodes. So I'll move it out a little bit so we can see it, and then select that, hold Shift and Control, drag, flip it, and move it down with the Control key and the arrow. And I'll select both and type L to left align, and maybe zoom in. My drawing is not real. I'm not sure I like the shapes all that much, but you can play with yours and you can make them be exactly what you want to have them be. I'm going to left click here and join node to the closest node, same thing here. Now I have this huge tag, but I don't need it that big. I need it to be maybe, I'll lock the aspect ratio and maybe make it about 3.4 inches tall and press enter. So now I have a tag that I can use on my card. I can shadow it, the inset shadow, maybe at about -0.08. Yes, just so it's inset just a little, and accept that. So now I would have to, I'll copy that Control C and go over to my card and add a new layer and type Control Shift V and see if it'll fit in my space here. And I'll take off the snapping and zoom out a little bit so we can check, make sure it fits in between those score lines. And if not, I can just resize them. I wanted them to fit in between the top line and the bottom line, but I also need it to fit in between the score lines here so it's not hanging over. So I think I'll resize it a little like that. And I would send this to its own layer because it'll probably be a different color. So if I can change all the colors now. I could change my card. I think I did a lavender card here, and I did a blue for the background, and I think the outer piece here I made kind of a light pink. No, made that blue. And I did this one, a printed pattern. And then I could I can do the same thing on this side here because it looks nice, but you could do whatever you want. Control Shift and drag. I get another piece here. And then I need a piece for the front. Well, the front, right now, the front of the card is a dark blue, and I really don't want a dark blue for the front. So I'm going to add a new layer, and I'm going to add another lavender piece to go on the front. So I'll just get a square here. SQ finds a square for me, double click, and size it to be about the same as this lavender piece. You could measure it precisely and get it, and change that to lavender. So this piece will be for the front. Move it down here. And then I can decorate it also with one of these embellishments. So I can click this and Control Shift and drag, send them to the top. I need to be a little bit bigger to look nice on the front. I want to leave some room though for that lace, the snowflake lace. You can make them whatever size you want. And to make the snowflakes, I just, if you go back to this new page, I just used rectangle. You can do whatever you like to do for snowflakes, but I like to just get a nice skinny square and Control Shift drag to duplicate it, and then make a short one and rotate it. And drag another copy and flip it. Now if you wanted it to be nice and pretty and smooth, you could add a circle to the end. I didn't do that on mine. But once I got one little piece here and I weld it, then I could duplicate it, duplicate, rotated, and I don't need one. I need to offset the Y, but I'll accept it. You could have a snowflake like that. Duplicate it again, see what happens. On this duplicate, I like to kind of rotate it at a different angle. Anyway, a snowflake has six pieces. You can make your snowflake however you want, but it's just a matter of repeating it the way you like it to be. I think I did both ends of a long rectangle. And then I only had to make 3 of them. So I'm going to flip and mirror. Once you have a snowflake that you like, you can weld them, and then you can resize them. I think if it's too skinny, you can make them fatter. You can add more more detail, but I think I just did a nice simple one like this. Can you still hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, because my power's flickering. I'm going to make these, I'll keep these going across. I gave them just a little spacing. I'm going to minus space, minus 0.01 maybe, just so they're just barely overlapping, and apply. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 should do it. And I'm going to add just a, you could make your, just a row of snowflakes just like that, but I kind of wanted to feel a lace on mine, so I made a little rectangle to go along the edge. You can make yours be whatever you want. And with them just barely overlapping, I should zoom in a little, type 4 and 3, and make sure that they're overlapping, and not quite. And then I think I want this narrower. Right now it's at a height of 0.1, so maybe I want it at a 0.08. Enter. Whoa, I forgot to undo the lock again. 0.08, enter. That's okay. And then I just weld. So I have this piece of lace here that I can resize for the card. So what I'll do is I'll just Control-C copy, and I'll go back to my page here. I'd like a piece of lace to go on the score lines. I'm going to move the score lines to the top. To move them, right-click and move layer to top so I can see them. I want my lace to go along this folded edge of the book. So Control-Shift-V, paste in place, and I'll rotate it to make sure that it's the right size for that area. Maybe make it a little longer. And then I'm going to duplicate it to make another one over here and mirror it. So I can make my lace whatever color I want. I made mine white for snowflakes. And then it would be nice to have a couple on the front. So I'm going to Control-Shift-Drag. And on the front, I think I'm going to have them horizontal. So I can use my rotate 90 degrees and then Control-Shift-V, drag and flip so I can put this at the bottom. And I'd like it to go all the way across, so I think I'll make them a little bigger with the corner, keeping them, and I'll make the bottom, this top the same as the bottom. So in doing this project, I've just kind of given you an idea of how to use your tools to create something that you kind of see in your mind, or something that has inspired you. You can make it your own. So I can go to this new page, copy the leaves, Control-C, go back over here, and I'll put it on its own layer. Control-Shift-V. It's a little big here. I need it to fit on that little section. So first I'll shrink it on the corner, and then I might just make it narrower this way. And change the color to green. Now, are you tired? Or if you need to take over, Brian, I can show you how I cut the nativity out if you want, or you can go ahead and do your demo.
Either way, I think. I mean, there's a lot of different parts, and I guess let me just say that one thing that Barbara said, she appreciated you showing how to make the vine. So thank you for that. And Jamie said, very nice, Julie. Before we get too far off of that, I was going to have Susan do a quick demo how to make the base card if you had Pop-Up Card Studio. And then if people still want to see how you did, so where was the nativity?
The nativity I think you got on a Google last week.
Oh.
I just used the one you did last week.
Oh, gotcha, okay.
And I just cut the baby out, and I grabbed the star from it, and I just copied it and pasted it here. The other thing that I could show you, some have had a question about how do you size the glyphs on Samantha to fit the text that you type. This I just typed.
Right.
But here I wanted some fancy things, so I did some substitutions.
Well, why don't you go ahead and show that real quick then as well.
Okay.
While we're here.
And then this is, I just added circles here. So you can make your own card. I think everybody should have homework to use the base design to go ahead and do your own thing. And as I was folding this up, let's look back at the folded up one, the photo here. As I was folding it, I thought, yeah, this could be done in Pop-Up Card Studio probably very easily. Because it wasn't all that. It took me a minute to draw these lines in, but you could do the same thing in Pop-Up Card Studio. And so I'll go back to the font here. I'll just go to an empty page, add a new page. And what was the text I used? The greatest gift. Okay. Okay, so if I want to use a Samantha font, I click on Text and Fonts, and I'm using the Italic Pro, and I've got the B here for bold because there is a bold version of this font. And then I'll click on the greatest gift, the greatest gift, and accept it. Now it's got quite a bit of space here. In order to get them closer together, I take each line and I join the line, just because they're so spaced out. And I'd like to keep the spacing even, so I'm going to hold the Control key and move these, and they move proportionally together to about where I'd like them to be, and then I can split them again in order to add decorative pieces to this. Now to find the special characters in this font, you have to click on all glyphs right here, and then you go down till this slider is all the way, almost all the way down. I can't see my slider from my toolbar. I guess I can move my toolbar. Okay, move this slider almost down to the bottom. And it goes through the alphabet. So if I want a fancy G, I can go to the G's and see if there's a nice G for the front of my word. So I'm looking for a fancy letter at the beginning and maybe one with a tail for the end of each word. G. So this is a pretty nice G, but I'm looking for a capital G here, and these are lowercase. So let's continue scrolling up. But you notice I'm still down here in the bottom. There's over 2,700 glyphs in this font. So you have a lot to choose from, but the extra pieces are down in the private use area down at the bottom. I'm just going to do the G for you so you get an idea of how this is done, because I spent some time just playing with it. I was wanting to get a nice fancy G. So we have all kinds of G's here that we can use. Maybe I'd like to use this one because it's got a tail to go underneath the letter. So I double click that G. You notice how big it is. That's pretty big. Well, I need to make that G be proportional to the other letters. So what I'm going to do, and I think I must have snapping on. Yeah, I'm going to turn the snapping off because get more precise here, and I'm going to zoom in for 3. Now the reason I'm using bold is that they cut much better. So I want the height here, and I want the position. Once I get that right, then I'm going to click on the original G, I think, or maybe I'll send this G to its own layer and hide it for a second. Now I can get rid of this G. Select it and hit the delete key and then open it. So that gives me a little tail that comes under here. And if I want to, I can move this a little closer to the R, but I found that I really like this spacing. If I wanted to connect this to the R for cutting, I think I would just probably use my eraser tool at a very small size and undo that. Click on inverse eraser and hold my control key so I make a straight line and just kind of connect it that way. And then once I have all the letters, I could go and do the T the same way. I would do this E, this T. I might leave this G the same as it is right now just to give a variety, or I could use this G. And then I might want a fancier T. So I went through and I just found those things that I wanted for each of the ending letters and the beginning letters, and sometimes it helps have one of your inner letters have a flourish across. If not, I could go back to the fonts and I could find a flourish down here at the bottom after all the lowercase letters. We'll find all the special characters. There's some words there that are useful, but then there's some extra tails and things that you can add if you wanted to flourish like this. I think I played with this one this week somewhere. I can't remember where. I kind of connected it to the end of a word just to give me a little decoration. So you can make it your own. So that's kind of what I did. Once I got everything positioned the way I wanted it, I just welded it. Some letters that were close welded together, those that weren't didn't, but that's okay. If I've decided to print this because it was just as easy to print and then cut the tag that it was on. So if I take this down a little, I printed these right on the paper for my card. So it turned out nice and clean. And it was interesting that the cutter just, cut right where it was supposed to, so I didn't even have to use registration marks.